Tavern Talk 716. We are accidentally wearing the same shirt this week.
Can you believe it?
I feel like an idiot. I
Me
am
too.
international best-selling children's author Keith White Jr. Normally, to my left would be AKA Lawrence Gomez,
Still suspended.
but he is suspended for a couple of weeks. So, to my left is
Joe from Buffalo.
Joe from Buffalo. And we are back again this week.
That's
It
how
looks-
it, man.
Looks like somehow we are both wearing the same shirt this week. So, that's weird.
Yeah.
Last week, we were here. We cut the show at the half-hour mark. I know a lot of people out there probably were just enthralled by what we were saying.
I know. There's a lot of Wii U enthusiasts out there.
Oh, yeah. So, from what I remember, I did say that this week we were going to talk about game collecting.
Mhm.
I know you have a few things back here behind us that you wanted
Yeah.
to bring up during the
Yeah.
show, but I did, before I forget, I did want to get into the game collecting.
Yeah.
I know we're just jumping right in this week. So,
Fast and the Furious.
the Fast and the Furious. We're
The
not going to
game
talk
on the
about
Wii
the
U.
movies or the games.
We can talk about
Maybe
the one
we'll
on the
talk
Wii U.
about the game on the Wii U, which is probably the same as the one on the Xbox, and if it
Most
is,
likely.
it is awful.
I
Is it
haven't played
really?
yet.
If it's the same as the Xbox One, we do not want to talk about it because
Okay.
it is awful. So, is it Showdown?
I don't
Fast and
remember.
Furious
I
Showdown?
honestly don't remember right
Because
now.
if it is, meh. So anyway, the reason I want to talk about game collecting is that I believe that we collect games differently.
Very differently.
You collect games like you're like, oh, I got to get all the Wii U games, and oh, I want this rare game, and oh, I
Yeah.
want these games that are worth money. Whereas, I do have a very big game collection.
Yeah.
I probably have, oh, excuse me, I am so sorry. For my Xbox 360, I probably have, disc alone, not including downloads, I probably have 200, 250 games. Easily.
It's a pretty good collection.
But, probably zero rare games. Zero
You probably have
games.
some rare games.
Maybe. And as far as I know, I have zero rare games and
He
zero
had
games.
Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 for the Xbox One.
I did, but
Doesn't have it anymore.
I beat it, so I was done with it.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the kind of
so
collector he
this
is.
is what we're going to get into. Is that the way I collect games is I buy games that I want to play.
Yeah.
My collection is based on, you were talking about sales at GameStop. And GameStop recently was doing 4 for 10.
Yeah. You buy two games under $10, or you buy two games under $5, you get two free.
Right. Well, I think it just said 4 for 10.
Yeah,
It did,
yeah.
just like 5 and under, 4 for 10.
Yeah.
So when they're doing those kind of sales, I will go into the store and I will dig through the games to find 4 games
It is so hard to do
in the
store.
$5. Oh, it's very hard to do.
Yeah.
But, well, because I'll bring the kids
Yeah.
and I'll have them pick out games they want to play.
Yeah.
But the point is, I don't go, ooh, this game's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
I say, ooh, I want to play this game.
Mhm.
So I will buy games I want to play and I'll put them in the backlog. And I'll be like,
Mhm.
well, I'll get to it eventually. And I'll put it in the backlog and I'll figure, I'll get to it. But between those and then, every month with Xbox Live, I get 4 free games.
Mhm.
And then I've got Game Pass now, so there's like 150 free games with Xbox. Well, they're not free, but you pay for it. But
Yeah.
it's like Netflix, but games. So there's like 150 games available on Game Pass. So my backlog gets bigger and bigger and bigger, way quicker than I can play the games.
Yeah.
So my collection is not based on what's valuable. It's
Yeah.
just based on what I want to play. Whereas you don't necessarily say, ooh, I want to play this, and you buy it. You go, ooh, I don't have this yet, and you buy it.
Sometimes, yeah.
Like your Wii U.
It's very limited. Like, I have a complete Virtual Boy collection that I
Okay.
bought
Where'd you get that from?
20 years ago. I worked
Oh.
at a flea market,
Mhm.
and this guy, I was telling the different vendors, I'm interested in Virtual Boy games. Let me know if you get any.
This is the Super Flea on Walden, if anybody remembers that place.
years ago.
In the Buffalo area. If
Yeah.
you're not in the Buffalo area, you're like, what is he talking about?
Flea markets are my favorite thing.
You'll-
We actually met each other at working at the flea market.
That's
we both
true.
worked at different
both
video game
worked at-
stands.
We both worked at the flea
And
market.
then we worked at the same one for a while. That was pretty cool. It was a big yellow school bus. It was
Long time ago, man.
some of the best days of my life. So, this one vendor's like, I have a complete Virtual Boy set. You can have the whole thing. You give me $5 a game, and you get the system for free. I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. I knew nothing about the Virtual Boy and prices and different things like that. And my buddy Keith over here had an almost complete collection.
I saw
Besides,
someone coming down the street. I was like, hey, maybe they can come be in our audience.
yeah, they
but
could
there's
talk
no,
about video games.
yeah, there was nobody. I apologize. Continue.
So he had an almost complete set, and he only needed one game. And
Jack
you know,
Brothers.
It is the rarest game. For the longest time, it was the rarest game I even knew about. You know,
At the time, though, it was not that rare.
No,
at the time. Nothing was
so
at the
he's
time.
like, I'll give you $10 for it. It's twice what you paid for it. And then if we come across another one, you can get it. And I said, yeah, sure.
Because yours
I
didn't have a
played it
box,
once.
right?
Yeah, I just had the.
It was just the cartridge.
and
so what I
instructions.
said was, oh, I just want all the games to play. So if I come across a boxed one, I'll give you the boxed one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I want, because all I need, I had the entire set. So not to interrupt your story, and I apologize, but so for what happened with me is, I stayed home sick from school the one day.
Yeah, I love this story.
And my parents were going to the mall, Galleria Mall, and they were like, oh, is there anything you want from the mall? Because I was like super sick, like, you know, like you get sick, but you know sometimes you're just really, really sick, and I was like barely stand up sick, and my parents felt really bad, and they were like, oh, we're going to the mall, is there anything you want? And I was like, oh yeah, I want a Virtual Boy, because they were like on clearance at GameStop. I think it was like $10 for a system.
Crazy
And it was like you walked into the GameStop and they had this big like pyramid of Virtual Boys, and they were $10. And I was like, oh, they have this thing called the Virtual Boy at GameStop, and I think it might even have been Electronics Boutique at the time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was way before.
So I was like,
GameStop.
oh, I want a Virtual Boy. Comes to the game and it's only like $10. So my parents go to GameStop, Electronics Boutique, whatever it was, and they tell the guy working there, oh, we're coming to get a Virtual Boy for our son. And the guy like tries everything he's got to convince them not to buy it. He's like, oh, you don't want that? And they're like, yes, we want that. Our son is sick at home and that's what he wants. And he's like, oh no, they stopped making these. You don't want this. And they're like, yes, this is what he wants. He doesn't care that they don't make it. He wants to play it. And the guy's like, no, you don't want this. Just give him something better. He'll be happy. And they're like, no, just give us, that's what he wants. Give it to us. So that he's like, all right, you'll be sorry, and sells it to him. So, you know, they bring it home, and I set it up on the kitchen table, and I'm playing this thing, and it was like the greatest thing ever. It was like
super cool.
real life. And this is 1995 real life.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, it's like put my head in there, oh my God, it's real life.
Yeah.
It's red and black. It is not real life. It's not even close.
It's a Virtual Boy, and the only other handheld system that was really selling at the time was a regular Game Boy, which was just like a green and black screen.
And this was a red and black screen.
Yeah, and
but
so
it was
red
a
and black,
VR helmet.
and so it was in 3D, and it looked extra cool. I think
So,
it's vector graphics,
well, you know what?
right?
It is.
Yeah.
And at the time, though, you know, virtual reality was not. The only time you saw virtual reality was at Darien Lake. They used to have the. Do you remember the virtual reality booth at Darien Lake?
Yeah,
and you could play Duke Nukem.
I never got to do it.
Oh, they had Duke Nukem
It was
on
like
a virtual
$20
reality.
to play for 15 minutes.
And all you played was Duke Nukem.
Yep.
But it was in VR, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. But that was it. So this was at home virtual reality. I know today that's nothing. You can use that with your phone.
Oculus.
You can hook your phone up to a
Yeah,
headset from Five Below and play virtual reality. It's nothing now. But then in the mid-90s,
This was the coolest thing
Virtual Boy was the coolest thing ever. The only problem was that they marketed it as a portable. You even said the only other portable. It was not portable in any way. It
was
literally had legs, and you had to put it on your table. It did not have a head strap. You could not strap it to your face and walk around. It sat on your table. You didn't go
carry it
anywhere.
around. It was battery operated, so in that sense,
You
it was
couldn't take it
portable.
anywhere.
I took it everywhere.
But when you played it, you were stationary.
So my first time playing Virtual Boy was actually at a conference, a magic conference, and one of the
Nerd.
other kids that was there, my dad was a magician, so he was the nerd, not me.
Nerd.
So this guy from England comes, and he has a Virtual Boy, and he let me play it. He brought it with him all the way from England,
Wow.
so it's portable. And I had
That
so
doesn't
much
make
fun
it portable.
playing it.
I could take my Xbox from here to England. Not portable.
But you have to hook it up to
Anything-
a TV.
In your world, anything's portable.
Fair
Because
enough.
you know what? I could buy a screen and hook it to my Xbox.
Then it's a portable Xbox.
No, it's not.
You gave me a portable Dreamcast with the screen on it.
Oh, well, that's not portable though. It's just a screen on a Dreamcast.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was so enamored by my Virtual Boy that came with Mario Tennis
Mm-hmm.
that I decided this is the first time. I believe
you had
it's
to be
the-
like 14 years old.
yeah,
at the
I
time.
believe this was the first time I decided I needed to own every game on a system.
Yep.
So that was it for me, because I did go on to buy every Sega CD game, every Saturn game, and every
Every
Dreamcast game.
Even European ones.
even, yeah, I didn't get them all, though.
No,
I did
no.
not get all the European
But
or
you got
Japanese
you got
Dreamcast
a lot
games,
of them
but I bought
that
many
weren't
of them.
released here.
Yes, anything that was not in the U.S., I did try to buy. I didn't buy all those, but I did
Yeah.
own all the U.S. Dreamcast games. That's a story for another show. Maybe we'll do another one after this. I don't know. But I decided that was the first system I ever said, you know what, I need to own them all. So I did. I sought out every game on the Virtual Boy. I even bought another copy of Mario Tennis from Blockbuster because it had a box. The one that came in your Virtual Boy did not have a box. The only way to get a box was from Blockbuster. So I even bought another copy of the game from Blockbuster. Once I had all the games, except for Jack Brothers, because I just...
super hard to find.
Well, it wasn't at the time, though.
It was super hard to find at the time.
Well, everything was super hard to find for Virtual Boy. It wasn't rare. It was just that nobody cared about Virtual Boy, so there just weren't games. So, GameStop then, for whatever reason, tried to convince my parents not to let me buy it. Then started selling import games because they sold that giant mountain of Virtual Boys. They sold them all. So now there were people looking for games. So they started selling Japanese games cheap. So I bought the Tetris game, the bowling game, what other games did I have? Because you bought them all. Baseball. You know, just the random Japanese games, which I did not get all the Japanese games because there was like the Haunted House game that I never got.
There's a few.
There was
of
Space
them.
Invaders that I never got.
Fishing.
Fishing I never got. But I did get all the like common Japanese games. So,
Bomberman.
and then, you know, I'm super into my Virtual Boy. I'm super into playing it. I love it. It's awesome. And then all of a sudden, Joe's like, hey, I got this Virtual Boy thing. And you like knew very little about it. I'm like, oh yeah, dude, it's so fun. And you're like, and I got all the games. I'm like, oh my God, do you have Jack Brothers? And you're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, dude, how much you pay for it? Oh, $5. I'm like, dude, I'll give you $10 for it. I don't care if it has a box. Like, that's not, I just want all the games. So when I get a box one, it's yours. Just, I would like to have the game now to play it.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, no problem. Dude, I spent every day after that trying to find, people would come in with Virtual Boy games to the flea market. Nobody ever had Jack Brothers. It was like my first experience with a rare game.
Brand new Virtual Boy games to the flea market after that, and I got a couple brand new ones from a guy.
But not Jack Brothers.
No.
This was like my first experience with a rare game.
Yeah.
Like I'd never really
I didn't even know what rare games
experienced.
were at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And they existed.
Yeah.
Just not in my world. So
oh
like,
my gosh, I had so many rare. Like the guy I worked for had so many crazy rare Nintendo games that I didn't know were rare at the time. Like he had the Tomato Princess game for NES, super rare game.
Okay.
But yeah,
I had a Genesis game that was super rare.
Musha?
It was what?
Musha? We were talking about that.
Yeah,
earlier?
yeah, I did have that, which I didn't know that was rare till today. That I didn't know was rare till today. There was a game, it was like Zelda. I want to say it was called Defender of Senti?
Yeah.
I had that game for Genesis. It was made by Atlas.
Yeah.
I had that game
Super rare.
back in the day because our friend Mike, who we were talking about earlier, or in the last show, I don't remember.
Yeah.
He had Zelda. He was a big Nintendo fan. He had Super Nintendo, I had Genesis. So he had Zelda. And it was always like, oh, no matter what games you have, you don't have Zelda. So when that came out, that and Legend of Oasis were like the two games where I could be like, oh these are just like Zelda.
Yeah.
So like I had both of those. And I found out not long ago that Defender of Century is like worth like a fortune now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's way up
Little
there.
did I know because I got rid of all my Genesis games to buy my Saturn.
Yep.
So like it wasn't rare at the time. But
I
anyway.
did the same thing. I got rid of all my Sega CD, 32X.
Right. Oh,
for
and
$40.
32X. I had all the 32X games except
Spider-Man.
I never owned Spider-Man.
Yeah. It's a hard one to find.
And it's awful. Did you ever play it?
No.
Awful. But anyway, I'm getting way off topic.
That's okay.
When that was the first experience I ever had with a rare game was Jack Brothers. So it's not even that great of a game.
It's fun though.
It's fun, but it's not that great. It's okay.
It's pretty good.
It's okay. There were way better. I would have rather played Wario Land or Mario Tennis or
Not
Nestor's Funky
Waterworld
Bowling.
though. It's not very good.
I did. Did I ever tell you how I got Waterworld?
You did, and I love that story. I was hoping you were going to tell it.
Oh, good. So I guess I'm telling stories. So Waterworld, back in the day, the internet is, everything now. But back in the day, everybody would be on message boards.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on, I don't even know what message board it was. If you have more information on this than I do, you were more than welcome to jump in. But I remember I was on a message board for people who played Virtual Boy games way back in the way back. And I happened to mention on the message board that I did not have Waterworld.
Yeah.
So somebody replied to me, this lady replies to me, and she's like, oh, I work at Ocean, who made Waterworld. She's like, I work there. We have a warehouse full of these games of Waterworld. Nobody bought it. I'm like, oh, okay. So she sends me a message. And back then it was email. So we're going back and forth with email. And she's just like, oh, yeah, we have a bunch of these just like floating around in a warehouse. She was like, would you like one? I was like, yeah, I don't have it. She's like, okay, I'll mail you one. And she mailed me a copy of Waterworld, brand new, in the box for Virtual Boy.
Which is probably the second rarest Virtual Boy in America.
I had no idea. It was garbage. I played it like a handful of times, and I was like, no wonder they have so many of these. It's awful. And so it just sat in my collection until I sold it all to Joe.
Yep.
So, to this day, Joe will never...
You just jumped way ahead. You already told him the big spoiler there. You sold it back to me.
You already said that earlier in the story that I sold everything to you. Oh, I thought you said that. Oh, you said you got your virtual... Ah, I did do that. So anyway, I ended up selling my Virtual Boy collection to Joe.
He sold it back to me for a steal.
Yeah, I gave him a deal because for years, he wouldn't let me forget.
He wanted a PS4.
Yep.
And we just traded.
I was going to say he didn't let me forget for 20 years.
Every time.
Every time
Virtual Boy came up, I was like, yeah, Keith got it for $10. And I was so mad because that's the other part of the story too, is like eBay was new at the time. And so you could look up a game's value on the internet was something brand new. And I look it up and it's selling for $35. And he only gave me $10 for it. I was appalled.
Well, neither of us knew any better.
No, we didn't.
But so he never let me forget that.
And it was mostly jokingly.
He never let me forget it. So when it came time that I was ready to get rid of my Virtual Boy, which is just a couple years ago now, right? Yeah. Like it was just because I was living in the house I'm in currently, so it was not long ago. And when it was time for me to get rid of it, I said to Joe, "Hey man, you never let me forget it. I feel bad. Let me give you my Virtual Boy, all my games at a really, really good price because they're worth a fortune." Which I wasn't worried
Jack
about.
Brothers, do you know how high Jack Brothers has gotten right now?
I don't.
As of today, I looked it up just recently. A complete one sold for over $800.
Oh my God! Now
so
now I can make you feel bad.
You can make me feel real bad.
But either way, I feel better because I helped you out.
And you know what I did too? Is so then I had two almost complete Virtual Boy sets because I had my all but Jack Brothers. And then I had yours, which is everything boxed but Jack Brothers. Mine weren't complete. So I combined them and I took the best of both. And then I have a good friend who...
I have the power pack and everything for it, right?
Yeah.
So you can plug it in and
I had
batteries.
That too. Yeah. But so I took all my extras and I sold them to a buddy who I gave him a really good deal. Probably about this, pretty close to what me and you exchanged everything for. And he ended up finding 2 copies of complete Jack Brothers that week as well. So then he had a complete Jack Brothers.
So now he's got them all.
It was probably the biggest video game find in Western New York.
Oh, there you go. So
for him.
For everybody out there watching the show who normally watches this show, none of this is probably making any sense to you.
It's okay.
So that's okay because we're doing something a little different. This show is always just a little different. So we've done a lot with video games. But either way, the point of the story was that we collect games very differently.
Yes, very differently.
But I understand because I used to collect games the way you do. That was where I was going with this. I know we went way off, but where I was going with this was I used to collect games the way you collect them. Whereas I would be like, I have this system.
You wanted to be a completionist.
I want it all.
Yeah.
I would have, I had the Virtual Boy. I wanted it all. It was the first system I ever owned where I wanted it all. When I did Genesis, it was like, I just want all the games I want to play. And I never, back then, I didn't want to get rid of them. Even when I was done with them, it was like, oh, I used to have this dresser in my bedroom. Do you remember my bedroom in my old house when we were kids?
Yeah.
And I had that big mirror on my dresser, and I used to keep my Genesis games lined up in there. And those were like the primo games. The ones that were not going to go anywhere. Primo. They weren't going anywhere. And then on my window in my bedroom, I used to have this DVD rack. Do you remember that? Next to my computer?
No.
So I had this rack, a wooden rack, and those were the games that were like expendable. I would keep all my games down there. That's where the Sega CD games lived. That was where the Genesis games that I was in the middle of playing lived. That was where the 32X games lived. Later, the Saturn games. But anything that was like, doesn't go anywhere. Earthworm Jim, Sonic games. That stuff went on my dresser, almost on display for people to see. The rest of it went under my window. I'd play it, and then I would take it to Zappers and get rid of it.
Yeah, Zappers, man.
Zappers.
That place was cool.
Yeah, that's a whole episode in itself.
Oh, man. Video Factory, Zappers. Those were local.
What was that?
Western
Yeah,
New
I don't know
York
if the phone, the camera, the microphone picked that up, but there
I think
was
it was
like
thunder.
I don't know if that was
Or a
thunder.
garbage
It sounded like a train crashing. Anyway,
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
So when I had Genesis, it was like I had just a number of games that I had to keep, no matter what. Those games you don't sell. They had to be in pristine collection. They don't go anywhere. Those, and then I had my expendables, and it was like games I'd play and then get rid of.
Schwarzenegger.
Like Cliffhanger.
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, like Total Recall, Cliffhanger, Universal Soldier games. Those could go.
Yeah, any of the guys from the
Right.
Expendables,
Any of the Expendables that were starting
Did
games.
you have Expendables? The game Expendables?
I don't believe there's a game of that.
I'm pretty sure there's an Expendables game.
Not on Genesis. That movie came out way after.
I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah, the movie came out way after Genesis existed.
Keep talking. I'm Googling it.
There's no Expendables game for Genesis. It didn't exist. Anyway.
Keep going.
That's fine.
I'm listening. I'll still talk.
Yeah, you can keep talking. You look up a movie that came out in the late 2000s if it was a Genesis game in the early 90s. Because that's logic. Anyway, so Genesis was never about collecting at all. But then I got Sega CD. And you know what I think it was? Between Virtual Boy, Sega CD,
Oh, it was a
32X.
Dreamcast game.
It was not based on the movie The Expendables.
No,
there was
I'm not
no
saying
game
it was based on it. I'm saying it was
on
called.
that. Okay, maybe.
Called Expendables.
Anyway, you know what I think it was, honestly, is that Genesis, Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, there's so many games. A Sega CD collection is attainable because it's just a few hundred.
Yeah.
A 32X collection is attainable. There was like maybe 100. Yes,
That's what I was
remember
thinking
that game.
That's a good game.
There was,
Expendable.
yeah.
Link in the bottom.
Link in the bottom. No, there's not. No, there's not. There was maybe 100 games on the 32X. I don't think there was that many.
Yeah.
The Virtual Boy had like 20 games. Is it that many?
14 U.S. games.
14 U.S., but I'm talking with the Japanese games I bought.
Maybe.
Like maybe 20 games. So it was more easily attainable to get them all.
Yeah.
And then, once I was in that habit, with Sega CD and 32X, then Saturn came along. Saturn had way more games.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I can get them all. I could do that.
Yeah.
It's doable. I had a job at that point.
Yeah.
I was no longer a kid. I had a job. I had money. So I ended up with all the Saturn games.
Man, I was like, we had so much money in high school because we were working.
Right.
We only worked the weekends.
With no bills.
No bills.
No bills.
All of our money went in video games.
Exactly. My first, in fact, again, I'm just going off target here, but my first weekend that I worked at the flea market in Walden, the day I worked, I got my paycheck and I bought for the Saturn NBA Jam Extreme. I used my whole paycheck to buy it.
That's
And
sad.
then the next week I brought it back. I was like, this is awful. And
Sounds
it
about
was.
right.
But then it was like, well, you know what? I don't have it though, so I ended up keeping it.
You want to talk about Rare Basketball game for a second? For Sega CD?
Sure.
NBA Hang Time 95.
Okay. Made by Sega?
It is ESPN NBA Hang Time
Oh,
95.
yeah.
It's one of those games. It's like it's not a hidden gem. That's not the right
No,
word.
it's junk.
But it's one of those games that is rare and expensive, but nobody thinks of it as rare and expensive.
No.
I have found it 4 times in the
Junkie
wild.
sports game.
Yeah, junkie sports game, $5.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it.
I can picture it in my head. Junkie sports game.
Can I tell you how I found out it was worth money and rare?
Please.
I had a sale up
Tell
on...
them, don't tell me.
I had a sale up on eBay. I was finally getting rid of all my Sega CD stuff. I had been sitting on it for 20 years, and my wife didn't want me having any video games anymore. She's not very nice. But
They couldn't hear that, but I'll say it louder. She's not very nice. He said it, not me.
I did.
Well, I said it too.
Yeah, we both said it. So I put up Lunar, Lunar 2, and all my variants of Lunar, because there was different variant discs. And I even had a misprint Lunar case.
Really?
Where the foil, so if you don't know about Working Designs, look up Working Designs. They make beautiful games. They made beautiful games. And their
What
Sega
happened to
CD, they shut down after
Oh,
they
they're
made the
gone.
PlayStation games. I don't think, I don't know if they made
And they made Saturn games.
Did they make a Saturn?
Yeah, we can talk about that in the next episode. You
Yeah,
continue,
sure.
please. Tell your story.
So,
They made the last Saturn game, I believe, but you continue.
ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard something
That's a
about
tease for next week.
They even made some European ones. They released them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, all right, but you
So-
finish telling the story because we're
So
almost
like
at the end of this week's
super
show.
rare variant of a lunar where the foil was misprinted and it was offset from the regular.
Oh, okay.
And that was the whole reason why the guy that was buying the auction wanted that one. And then I put in the listing, that, if the auction goes over this certain dollar amount, you can pick up 10 games from my, that I have available. And so I put pictures of all my Sega CD games. And the auction was in the middle of going and finally sold, and it sold for where I would give the guy 10. But then other people were emailing me on the side saying, hey, can I get this NBA 95? And I'm like, why are people asking about this game? And then I looked it up, and it's a $100 game.
3 o'clock in the morning, a motorcycle just went by.
That's always fun.
So I hope everybody could hear most of your story, but a motorcycle just went by.
Yeah, it's
3
pretty
o'clock in
crazy.
the morning.
Yeah. You gotta love.
Tavern Talk 716, baby.
There you go.
So, yeah, was that the end of your story? I'm sorry.
That was most of it. And then the other funny part is the guy that won the auction didn't even see my whole edition because I wrote it after I made the initial listing. And eBay was really funky at the time. They were going through some weird, trying to incorporate the mobile app and the website, the regular computer website.
Right.
And so sometimes when you post something on the mobile app, it wouldn't show entirely on the website.
Okay. Yep.
And so he didn't even know he was getting a bonus 10 games. And he didn't know NBA 95 was worth money because he didn't pick it as one of his 10 games. And when I told him that, which games do you want to pick? He got really upset, and he thought that I was saying he only gets a couple of the Lunar games. But he got everything. I was a man of my word.
So I will say the show is almost over. We're literally at the finish line here. So what I will say is I believe the last Saturn game was Magic Knight Rayer, which was
a
an
good one.
amazing action RPG. And
Yep.
I don't even like role-playing games, but that game was
There's a local collector that's been
so
looking for that
good.
for
Oh, really?
years now.
That was the
He's never
last
gonna
game.
find it.
That is Working Designs. Did that game.
Yep.
And I own that game because at the end of the Saturn, I was pre-ordering all those games. House
Yep.
of the Dead, Magic Knight Rayer, like all those last bunch of games. I was pre-ordering them
Mr.
from
Moneybags over here.
Mr. Moneybags. From the only store that was doing pre-orders on those games was the in the Eastern Hills Mall. There was Babbage's, yes. Babbage's in the Eastern Hills Mall was the only store doing pre-orders on Saturn games still. So I had to pre-order them all the way out there. I was living in South Buffalo, and I would have to get a ride when the day came out all the way out to the Eastern Hills Mall to pick them up. And it was Resident Evil was one of them towards the end. House of the Dead, Magic Knight Rayer. I wish I could remember all those last games.
Yeah.
Burning Rangers.
Another good one.
Shining Force 3, which I never even opened because I didn't like role players, so I never even opened it before I got rid of it. But though all of those last games, there's no way to know. At the time,
you sold them to play a game while you worked there, right?
right, I sold them all to pay for my Dreamcast.
Yeah.
And you know what? And you can all you want,
Yeah, I
but
know.
at the time there was no way to know.
Oh yeah, I know.
I could have sat them and they were worth nothing. There's
Yeah.
no way to know. You can't. If you could see into the future, nothing would be rare because you'd know.
Yep.
So either way, I just want to throw that out before the end of the show. So this has been Tavern Talk 716, and for 2 weeks in a row, we've done something weird. This week, however, we had matching
It's so
Transformer
weird. I don't know
t-shirts.
how that happened.
I don't.
They smell new.
Mine smells New Year's. Smells like garbage. What did you do? Roll around in manure? You stink. Ugh. Oh. Anyway, I am international best-selling children's author Keith White Jr. To my left is crying Joe Buffalo from Buffalo, or whatever he calls himself. This is, if you can see it,
Yeah, it's a little blurry.
Tavern Talk 716. Hopefully you'll join us next week. I have no idea if we're back out here on the porch, or we're back in the bunker, or we're out at some local bakery. I don't know what happens next week.
You could be trapped in the trunk.
It's kind of part of the fun. So, stick with us.